Roberta Glass, and I was in court again for another NXIVM hearing. The judge wants to know, where's the money gone? Stay tuned. So the big news at trial today was that the NXIVM defense is running out of money. The judge said there is 25% left in the trust, and he is concerned what happens when all the money is gone. Are the lawyers going to stay on and defend their clients? And strangely, Susan Nichols, who is Claire Bronfman's lawyer, stood up and started talking about how the trust was set up to avoid anything improper, and basically talking about a conflict of interest, which was not the subject, which was interesting. You can read into that what you will. But then Mark Agnifilo, Mr. 100%, stood up, or now should we call him Mr. 25%, stood up and said, "Judge, you're stuck with me. I knew I would never get paid for the entirety of this trial, and so you're stuck with me, and I think all the lawyers here intend to stay on the case." So there will be Curcio hearings in February to deal with these issues of conflict of interest and also these issues about what happens after the money is gone will also be dealt with further. So that is what this hearing was about. Keith Raniere is looking as terrible as always. Catherine Oxenberg was there. It was well attended. People are still following this trial. Even though the hearing was pretty much uneventful, besides for the shocking news that there is only 25% left in the trust. Also, there was another tense moment between Mark Agnifilo and Judge Garifas. Again, Mark Agnifilo is making another motion to try to get Keith Raniere bail, which will never happen. I don't think anybody thinks that's going to happen when you're caught in Mexico fleeing arrest, really, or potential arrest, and you're using encrypted devices. It's just, you're not likely to get bail. Anyway, so Mark Agnifilo says to the judge, I'm very anxious to get in front of you again and talk about this matter. And it's just, I don't know if I got across the casual manner in which he talks to the judge. And the judge stopped and he said, raised his eyebrows and said, "In front of me?" And Mark Agnifilo, always ingratiating. It was like, well, in front of you, behind you, see you again in court. And it was just a little warning to him to show a little bit more respect, stop acting so so friendly and casual, like your best buddies. It was another interesting moment. But of course, the biggest news is that the trust is 75% of the trust is gone, and I can imagine that this trust would be, I don't know what's, no one knows what's in it. So also the prosecution disclosed that they haven't seen the trust, or there's two parts of the trust. There's the trust indenture and the declaration. So the prosecution said they haven't seen either one of those things, so there was some talk about letting them see it, possibly redacted versions of both of those documents. And NXIVM is also sealing their motions that they made, and that is another issue. Basically, NXIVM doesn't want to release any information to the prosecution. There's also a list of possible witnesses attached to this these trust documents. And Susan Nichols stood up, who is Claire Brofman's lawyer, and she said, I'm concerned that when we hand over these trust documents, it will be used as discovery, meaning it will be used to fuel the prosecution's defense. And that has been the NXIVM defense strategy all along, to say everything's everything's privileged. We can't disclose anything. We have to, everything has to be a secret, and while asking the prosecution for as much information as possible to try to figure out who the witnesses are, what they're saying, what everybody's saying, so that they can work behind the scenes to strategize their defense would be the nicest way to put it. A more cynical person might say to manipulate the witnesses, possibly. I don't know. So that's what happened. As I sat next to Melissa Roberto, who is doing great reporting for Radar Online. If you're not following that, and if you're not following MK Art on Instagram, MK Art 10 it is on Instagram. Follow both of those people. Both doing great job reporting what's going on with NXIVM. So Melissa Roberto and I talked as we left the courtroom, and we both remarked on how friendly all the defendants are with each other, especially Nancy Salzman was there in court today, by the way, back looking very well after her breast cancer surgery. And there seems to be no tension between Nancy Salzman and the rest of the defendants. And I said, if someone were taking a plea deal and possibly giving evidence against me, I would not be talking to them. And, Melissa Roberto agreed. We also talked about Mark Agnifilo and his background and how it's so amazing that she mentioned that a guy with daughters, I didn't know that he had daughters, would defend so many men who have been abusive towards women. So, very interesting. But I want to keep this short because it was not a super eventful hearing. The next hearing is April 24th. I just want to give you a little bit of flavor of and information about what happened. So, stay tuned.